I can't believe I'm seeing this watch in person. I've been hunting it for years. Hello, welcome to Swiss Watch Cam. Welcome to a very interesting video. Today I'm not alone in the studio. As you can see, I've brought my friends with me. And today we're gonna do a partnership video with Ikepod. For many of you, the Ikepod name isn't something you hear for the first time. If you've been around in the 90s or the beginning of the 2000s and you've been collecting watches for a while, you might remember this brand. Let me give you a bit of a backstory to the brand and also why I brought my KAWS pieces today on the show. The Ikepod brand was founded in 1994 by Oliver Ike and Mark Newson. Mark Newson is a famous industrial designer who worked across all of the industries. He worked in the aviation industry, furniture, architecture, of course timepieces, and also sculpture design and more. His design style is very organic, transparent, and he doesn't like to use sharp lines. The same design language is also implemented in the Ikepod watches. The name of the brand is the combination of the founder's last name, Oliver Ike, so Ike, and the pod watch and pod clock which Mark Newson created. So we have Ike and pod. Together, of course, Ikepod. Some of the iconic Ikepod watches are the Hemipod, the Horizon, the Sea Slug, and maybe you remember the Solaris. The Solaris is one I particularly like. It has basically 2 dials and 2 quartz movements in it. One of my favorite one is the black and white ceramic one, because you have 2 colors to choose from and you can adapt it to your outfit. Mark Newson left the company in 2012 and is not present in these modern designs that we have here on the table. The Ikepod brand was purchased again in 2017 and they relaunched on Kickstarter in 2018. They had a very successful launch with these models and also one different one which I don't have here with me, the pod watch, and actually I'm super happy that they survived. Christian Louis Cole is the new person at the helm of the brand and he's really pushing it to new extremes. He's been a fan of the brand since the beginning, since the 90s, and he also had the opportunity to buy back some new old stock pieces, which we're gonna talk about today as well. We have one on the channel, which is a watch you saw in the intro and I still can't believe it's here. It's a model from a graffiti artist basically, by the name of KAWS. So Brian Donnelly is a New York-based graffiti artist whose sculptures or toys I like to collect as well. And also some t-shirts like you see here. This is my favorite one, that's why I also had to have it on the channel today. This one's a bit sad, but he might loosen up once I come to the watches. This is one of those watches which you hunt and you want to find one in person and it's nearly impossible. It's a watch which pops up like at an auction, maybe every 2-3 years. This exact model here in my hands is actually not for sale, which I'm just very privileged to show you guys. The collaboration with KAWS is based on the Horizon model. The hour and the minute hand are actually inspired by the KAWS companion eyes, as you can see here, the X's. And the hour markers are actually circled teeth, as he uses in some of his paintings. It's a very three-dimensional dial, very monochromatic, and the Ikepod logo is actually imprinted underneath the sapphire crystal. It's a curved sapphire crystal, which just makes the UFO look complete. The case is made of brushed titanium, so it makes this watch very light to wear, and on the crown you can see the Ikepod logo. So how do you read the time on this watch is actually very easy. You have 2 hands. So on the tip of one of the hands here you can see there's a very small white tip, and this represents the hour marker. So the other one is the minute marker. So if I twist the time a bit now it's 12 o'clock and 15 minutes. Very easy to read once you get used to it, like all the watches essentially. On the case back we can see some inscriptions like the Ikepod logo, the KAWS signature, which number this is, and also the material and that this watch is waterproof to 50 meters. We also have an exhibition window through which you can see the ETA movement and especially the balance wheel and the winding rotor moving around. This watch, like I said, is not for sale, but if you go on the Ikepod website, they have a vintage corner where you can buy new old stock vintage Ikepod watches, and there's actually 2 KAWS pieces available. The original price of the KAWS Horizon was around $14,000 US. Now, because of the auction results and also the increased hype and increased popularity in KAWS artworks, the price is around $45,000 US. This is a collectible timepiece, again, not focusing on a movement or a special watch designer, but purely pop culture and contemporary art. If you own a smartwatch, the world's most popular smartwatch, you will recognize this strap as well. This one in particular has the two crossed eyes here, which again all the KAWS companions have. The new Ikepod watches come with a similar strap but a different buckle. Let's now jump from the vintage watches to the modern watches, the new generation of Ikepod. We have three examples here on the table, different price point, different movements, different dials and different sizes. All of them have a few similarities though. All the watches here feature the same case as the vintage watches do, like the Horizon. They have a brushed finish and on the crown you can see the old logo. Just so you can differentiate them by name, this one is called the Duopod, this one is called the Chronopod because of the chronograph, and this one is called the Megapod. The size of the cases are also different, as you can see, that's why I put them in order. We go from 42mm for the Duopod, 44mm for the Chronopod, and 46mm for the Megapod. That's why it's called Mega. On paper, these sizes might sound very big and you would say, oh no, I don't want a 46mm watch. But let me compare it with my 37mm Audemars Piguet Royal Oak and you'll see that it's not that big. So if I put the 46mm Megapod in my hand next to the 37mm Audemars Piguet, you will see that the difference in size is not that big. And also on the wrist, let me tell you, the Ikepod watches are super comfortable, and once I show them on the wrist, you'll see what I mean. The dials of the Duopod and the Chronopod were designed by Emmanuel Guet. This might sound familiar to you. If you're a big fan of Audemars Piguet, you will know that Emmanuel Guet designed the Royal Oak offshore chronograph. That's why also it makes sense that he designed the Chronopod as well. The new Ikepod is spearheaded by Christian, and he has two great designers on board. One of them is Emmanuel Guet, and the other one is Alexandre Peraldi, who is responsible for the Megapod collection, amongst them one of my favorites, this beautiful blue dial one. Alexandre Peraldi is responsible to designing a lot of great watches, and he worked for the biggest luxury group in watchmaking. All of the watches have the same design of the hour and the minute hand, and all of them feature Luminova. The Duopod has a beautiful dial that resembles a bit of a golf ball. The Chronopod has a gorgeous monochromatic dial, but also other models are available if you check out the website. And this one, definitely my favorite and also fits my wrist the best. The Megapod has a gorgeous, I think it looks like a sunburst dial in the middle, and the outside minute track has a satin finish decoration, which is super cool. And when you go outside with this blue dial, you just marvel how many different hues of blue it has. When I turn the watches around, you also see that they have a different case back. So the Duopod and the Chronopod have a closed case back, which is actually screwed on and beautifully brushed. And the Megapod has an exhibition case back, where you can see the automatic movement. The movement inside the Megapod is the Miyota Caliber 1939, a workhorse movement which is very reliable. You have the Ikepod logo on the rotor, the winding mass or the end of the rotor is actually kind of frosted, and the bridges have the Geneva stripes finished to them. The Duopod and the Chronopod both have quartz Miyota movements, and again, if you remember, in the past Ikepod watches used to be very expensive. And Christian's vision is to bring this watch and the brand and the designs to the masses. So the prices currently are around 10% of what they used to be. Most of the models come in a limited edition, and the Duopod starts at around 650 Swiss francs. Depends on the country and the taxes, these prices might vary. The Chronopod is slightly more expensive, it's around 790 Swiss francs, again depends on where you order it. And the Megapod, this model in particular is the M001 Dieter, would cost you around 1,250 Swiss francs, again depending from where you order the watch. When you go on their website, you will see also different dial variations and all the models they have, from the Duopod, Chronopod, Megapod, and also the Pod watch, which we don't have here on the channel today. What I'm most excited about is the vintage corner, where you can find some pretty sweet deals on the new old stock watches. Vintage Ikepod watches are becoming more and more collectible, as not many people tend to sell them. Let me now put one of them watches on my wrist so you guys can see how it fits me and how they look. I'm gonna choose the Chronopod. As you might have noticed, the pushers of the Chronopod are also orange like the hands are. All the watches have a same strap and the same tank buckle, which goes with the organic design of the watches. The rubber strap is super comfortable and the feeling when you touch it is really nice. From the side you can see the height of the Chronopod, it's 60 millimeters. Again, sounds like a lot on paper, but when you have it on the wrist and you see how comfortable it is, it's really no big deal. The diameter of the Chronopod, like I explained before, is 44 millimeters, and just for reference, I have an 18.1 centimeter wrist size. Personally, I love the size, I love the design, and it's something you don't have in the collection yet. This is a quirky weekend watch or also for the everyday use, and be sure that people will ask you, what the hell are you wearing? What is also improved in the new generation Ikepod watches is the servicing of them. If you see this new Megapod, for example, the case pack you can open from the back. You need a normal tool, usually most of the watchmakers have, and you can open it up and service the movement. In the past, this wasn't that easy. Here we have the KAWS watch for comparison, and you see you cannot open the case pack, so how did they assemble this old watch? So in the vintage models, they used to come from the front. So basically, you need a special tool to service an old Ikepod watch. You would unscrew this part, like the bezel, let's call it. We have a little line here, and then you would service the movement, and then you would put it back in from the front side. On the Duopod as well, you just open up the case pack and anybody across the world can service this watch. I hope you liked today's watches. Let me know in the comment section below which one is your favorite or which one would you like to buy in the future. Give Ikepod watches a follow on Instagram. I'm gonna put a link in the description, and also visit the website to get more information. It would mean a lot to me if you leave a like on this video and also share with somebody who might like a unique watch like this. For me personally, I really like the look of this watch, its distinct design language, and how funky it looks. I hope you like this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.